and welcome to this Swiss Films Organised panel, which marks the fact that the European Film Awards are to be held this year in Lucerne, Switzerland. And Switzerland's obviously the country of honour as well this year at Cannes. We're going to look in this session today at how to build a successful campaign to get your films shortlisted for the European Film Awards. This session is about the IFAs, but in a general sense could equally apply to campaigning for other awards as well. We're going to look specifically at how to campaign for films without high budgets. How do you make it to the selection stage, and then on to a prestigious nomination for the European Film Awards. And to do so, we're very fortunate. We've got a great panel, an expert panel, who have all worked on award-winning films in Europe, who are going to share their insights with us. On my far right, I've got Philip Einstein-Lipski. He's got a background as a creative in the advertising industry. He's also produced and directed two animated films, so he kind of knows about the challenges of making content that connects with audiences. For the last 15 years, he's worked in the entertainment industry, specializing as a creative consultant, an art director, and an expert in launching movies. With his wife, Maria, he's the founder and partner of Danish strategy consultants, the Einstein Couple, which has worked on European Film Award-winning projects like Ruben Östlund's The Triangle of Sadness, and many other great projects as well. Next to Philip, we've got Sue. Sue's a Swiss director and producer. She's actually won an IFA. Her 2020 feature documentary, Saudi Runway, premiered at the Sundance Film Festival and the Berlinale. It was nominated for a European Film Award for Best Documentary, and then won the IFA's European University Film Award. Her most recent film, Girl Gang, has since screened at over 120 festivals and was acquired by Netflix. It was also nominated for the European Film Award for Best Documentary as well. And next to me is Claudia Tomasini. Claudia is the founder of leading PR firm Claudia Tomasini and Associates. She's an Italian based in Berlin, working on several films that are in official selection in Cannes this year. And she's handled publicity for an amazing array of titles, some 200 titles in the last 20 years. Among them, Lucas Dont's Close, Alexander Nanu's Collective, Matteo Garrione's Io Capitano, as well as IFA-winning documentary Smoke, Sauna, Sisterhood. And what we're going to do is maybe start with a little case study from each of the panelists. And I was going to start with Claudia, because Claudia can perhaps give us a kind of general perspective on campaigning for the IFAs. But we thought we'd focus a little bit on what you did for Smoke, Sauna, Sisterhood. Over to you.
So, good morning. And yes, Smoke, Sauna, Sisterhood was an incredible documentary that was nominated and then won the European Film Award last year. Every campaign is different, every film is different, and I think that the most difficult things in every campaign is to get your film seen. So we started involving all the possible partners, the local distributors, and having some of these partners had a lot of very fun and creative ideas. Sometimes they build little sauna in front of screening for the local premieres. We involved local, as I said, local distributor, organized a lot of screenings. The film was invited in many festivals, and we end up winning, being nominated and winning the European Film Award. And the competitors were extremely strong and beautiful films. And so it was...
What was it that you did that, because it was a very strong group of documentaries that you're up against, was there anything that you'd identify that made your I mean, was it the documentary itself, or was there something about the campaign perhaps that was particularly?
Of course, the documentary was a very important, beautiful story about women resilience. But I think when I start, the first things that I think you have to do during campaign is to get your film seen. And in the last years, the European Film Academy is helping us a lot to organize screenings in every country, and we are able to invite members. And we really organize screening everywhere in partnership with local distributors and in partnership with the European Film Academy, who help us in inviting members. And this was pretty great, I have to say. And you don't need a big budget to do this. And every partner has invited also their local contacts. And slowly, it was also a lot of work.
So actually, what you're doing is you're co-opting friends and partners and colleagues to just join this bandwagon, perhaps.
Definitely, you cannot do a campaign alone.
Right.
You need really a team and a strong partner that believe in your project. Otherwise, it's not possible.
Thank you, Claudia. Well, we'll come back and ask you more about other films as well. But Sue, maybe you could just tell us how you went about campaigning for your films for the IFAs.
Yeah, good morning. It was a little different because I didn't have that much money. I mean, I didn't have enough money to actually get someone hired, PR, so I decided to do it myself. And yeah, I got some money from Swiss Films, which was amazing as a support. And what I did in the end, so I thought, okay, how am I going to reach, how am I going to reach the people? How am I going to reach out? And we know all, during, award season, you receive numerous, emails, generic emails with, screening links or invitations to screenings, or general just, info letters to films which are nominated or shortlisted. But I didn't want to do that, so what I did with that little money I had, I hired an assistant, and we tried to find out all the emails from all the members in the academy, but basically like across the board, which took us weeks. So I spent weeks.
How many emails is that roughly?
I can't remember how many emails that were, but hundreds. Because we really had to go via the name, we had to Google the name, we had to see where this person's working, and then so I started sending personalized emails. Some people I knew, so they were actual, friends which I kind of dug out again. And other many people obviously I didn't know. And yeah, I just sent them a small little letter, like very polite, kind of holding back, not being invasive, but just like, hey, this film is shortlisted, please watch it if you can. The director, basically like that. And and then the other thing I did, because I was thinking a lot about social media, and then I got in touch with a few social media companies, and it was very funny because they offered me these packages and I just did not understand what that is. So they were talking from B to C, CC to C to B. And I had absolutely, what? Who are they? And then, but then I really thought about it. It's like, okay, so how often I am on social media, and how often do I actually see advertising popping up from a film which, could interest me. And I would say, very much in the film business. So all my friends on Instagram, they are actually in the film business, but nothing really ever comes up. So I thought, okay, I don't think that is actually really working. And then what I did, I hired a graphic designer for a few €100, and I designed my own personal stories for the films. And then I just distributed them to people who actually are kind of influential or have a lot of followers in the film business. Or one film I did was actually about an influencer, so she posted a lot, but obviously she's not really reaching the members. But so yeah, that was my kind of underdog
So those are the two main elements of your campaign.
Campaigning, sorry?
Those are the two main elements of your campaign,
Yes.
social media and direct emails.
Yes. So, yeah. And obviously then my distributor in Switzerland, also my world sales in Germany, they of course contacted people as well and,
Right.
you know, got the word out there.
Golly.
So,
Well, it worked. Thank you. So, Philip, you've got a very interesting perspective on this. You know, you worked on Triangle of Sadness at an early stage, which was a huge success at the IFAs. I wonder if you could just tell me, at what point did you get involved in Triangle of Sadness, and how did you go about helping that film stand out?
Yeah, good morning. I don't know anything about campaigning for shortlisted movies. I've never done it for a minute of my life. But I'll help, we get involved on script stage. So read the script and are asked, how do you get this movie out? What's it called? Who's it for? And we start with the same question every time. And we do that with, if it's Lars von Trier or Ruben, or it really is like the audience, they don't care. Like, who gives a shit? They're not waiting for your movie. Your mom is. But apart from that, nobody's waiting for your movie. So we start from there and try to find out what relates in the script, what are the themes, and what's the one thing you can say, like on a relatable, like an insight that you can actually put an image to, that isn't a feeling, that isn't your main cast in an emotional something. What's an idea that can invoke a feeling that actually gives you the insight? Because we think that, I mean, awards obviously is a talent and quality competition and a grit competition and all, but I mean, since we don't know anything about that, we just think it's a fame competition. Like, it's like most famous movie like tends to win. So make it famous, and making it famous starts way before the award season.
Right.
We only think about the audience, and we think that jury members are just also people. So we actually do think about the jury members of anything, but we have them as a target audience when we read the script. They're one of the target audience. There's a primary target audience, which is like, it would be von Trier's main like audience of old ladies eating nuts that watch every movie that he makes, but they'll come anyways. So let's forget about those guys. His mom as well. So we think, how can we broaden that audience? But one of the obvious main audiences for art house movies are jury members, and they're just people they have to be interested in as well. So because I don't have time to call or write emails to everyone afterwards, so we really just try to make an insanely interesting key image, like one thing that makes it stand out, and then we remind people that more people are going to see the poster than the actual movie, which sucks because you're making me famous in a way, but it's not about me, but it's about the project.
Yeah.
And once you realize, okay, it's not about the director or us or anything, it is about the project. If the project is famous, people tend to like it more. I mean, we like we love what we know. So if it's famous, if we've seen something relate to it, we kind of tend to like it more.
So what did you do specifically for Triangle of Sadness? What was, so you had the script, and how did you come up with, just tell us a little bit about the poster that you did actually create and how you came up with the idea for it. I mean, many people have seen and remember the poster, but just remind us.
Yeah, it's the woman puking gold. But that comes from an insight that when you read the script, like, what is it really about? Like, why does this movie exist? What is it about? And you can say this about a lot of things, but I mean, what's the one thing that everybody can agree on? Not about in the movie, but like, what's a key insight that everything that goes up must come down, And in this script, its power is temporary. And we were just looking for the one image that would say that, and that is a woman puking gold, which is, you want to be surprising. You got to surprise the audience, and you can't rely on the main cast to have a cool look. I mean, again, there are a lot of cool main casts, and they're in a lot of movies, so you can't rely on just a pretty face.
And when you pitch that poster to to Ruben and maybe to anyone else involved in the production at that stage or the script. What was the kind of reaction? You know, was that are you welcomed at that stage, or are you seeing what you do? You're having a kind of
not to undermine Ruben, but he didn't say much. Let's put it that way, because obviously he's seen a key image from your movie, which is so complicated and so smart. It's like, really? I mean, just that? And he went silent for a year and watched, I think he said, over 40 other posters and kept comparing it to that one. And I said, I guess you guys are kind of right. But he did say in the beginning, you're right, but am I really the puking gold guy, movie guy? And I think, yeah, you are. I mean, but I said, and then he admitted, yeah, I am. And also, you want to make a movie that you should, I mean, we believe you should make, a poster is such a different thing than a movie, because it's slow, there's nothing to it, there's no tricks, there's just an image, there's just whatever you feel from it. And it has to stick. I mean, there's like thousands of posters getting made every year, and what, do we remember 5 a year, maybe? I mean, literally, it's pretty hard. You have to, you got to go way further than you think to stand out. The idea has to be much clearer to stand out, much bolder, it has to be in line with the movie, obviously, but it has, I mean, you got to take a step further, because the audience is way bolder than we are in this room. I mean, we're all super careful and all in love with our cast. We're in love with the shit we're doing. The audience, like I said, they don't give a shit. They're not waiting for it. They're not waiting for your movie. And that's why they're much further ahead. Every audience test says that we would like to see something bold.
So for you, the campaigning is actually starting at script stage, at your poster stage. I mean, Claudia, I wonder for you, you know, at what stage do you, what stage is it important to start campaigning? Has the gun really started at script stage, at poster stage, or, you know, is it how important, I suppose, is timing really in?
It depends from project.
When do you get
project,
involved, basically?
Usually at the festival stage.
Right.
When a film is invited to a festival, then usually I come on board handling international press or the premiere, and then we start together a path. So. And sometimes it ends up doing, you know, being a big campaign. Sometimes it's just a festival launch. It depends. And of course, there are films, as Philip said, that are very, very big and have very impactful and have different needs, of course, for campaigning. But when we campaign, also for Smoke Sauna Sisterhood, if I can say, we did, of course, we organized a lot of screening together with the distributors, but at the same time, we also did what Sue did. So involving distributors and helping and asking for help on local territories. Right. So it's a combination of everything. Yeah.
Right. Are there any kind of, I wonder what you think of Sue's approach, the very direct approach of emailing personally, and you know, is that an effective? Would you recommend that? Is that an effective kind of way? Because I mean, we all get these kind of into our inboxes, these kind of general, you know, vote for this film, vote for that film. But do you? I mean, does that strike you as a good strategy?
It depends how you do it.
Right.
I think you have to be very careful. I would never recommend, and I don't do it when I ask, to ask, vote for my film. The audience, see, the members, or it's not, you know, I really just ask to consider the film and to watch the film.
Right.
And then the film needs to speak for itself. I never ask, please vote, and actually I never send or recommend to send a link with the letter to watch the film. No, the film needs to be watched, needs to be protected, and needs to be watched on the platform or in a screening room, but not send the link like it is. The film is too precious to do this.
Did you send a link, or what did you do?
No, I don't think so. I didn't send a link. No, I sent information, and I very much agree. I think there's a very fine line of how you word an email to
Right.
strangers. I mean, that is, yeah, I think it really depends who you're speaking to. And so whoever we were sending emails to, it was very personalized.
Right.
So I really looked at who this person actually is. But I have to say, I got so many positive replies and people who actually started a conversation about the film, saying like, wow, thanks so much for getting in touch. I just watched it on the platform. You know, it's really amazing, blah, blah, blah. How did you do this? How did you do that? We're just working on something similar. Maybe we can have a chat about it. And it was actually very, yeah.
And then
Enriching.
you can have ambassadors, no, in this way. So if you start, people get involved, like the film, talk to other people, and yes, it works.
Are there any?
And it's very, the line is very fine between not doing enough and doing too much.
Right.
So you really need to find, I think, the right balance, yeah.
Did you have a,
I think that personally, I mean, you got to be you to do that. I mean, an email from me would sound insane. From you, pushy. So you have to be the one actually doing it. And I don't know if you can do it again, but I know you can use that experience.
Yeah, I don't know if I would do it again.
Yeah, but you
No,
can.
I don't know, but I did it for.
But would love
these
to
two
have the
films, and it was
experience
very-
out of your
yeah.
head, you know.
Yeah.
So.
are there any other do's and don'ts you'd recommend? I mean, you know, there are all sorts of things you could consider, aren't there? You know, we've obviously talked about social media, there's advertising, there's, you know, events perhaps. But, you know, what are the most important, I mean, maybe I can ask you, Claudia, you know, what do you think are the most important elements of a campaign?
The most important element.
Yes, yeah, you know, and how important, say, is advertising, how important is PR, how important is screenings, you know, how important is, you know, events perhaps, social media?
For sure, you need to do a budget and then a timeline. Timing is also very important. Try to organize event during the voting window and not after the voting window. Sometimes it's happened very. Sometimes it's happened. Prepare your, for sure, your social media campaign, and organize screening, get an audience, and email, coordinate everything with distributors. It's also, you need to, I think something very smart is also inviting members to premiere. If you have local premieres in different countries, you can also invite members, and they will also experience your film maybe with a Q&A with the director. It's another tool that it's easy and not really expensive.
Philip,
And don't be too pushy.
right.
I would say get an outside perspective. Just it's super hard to see your own thing as not the most like awesome piece of work in the like history of cinema, and that goes for big budget, low budget, like any type of project is always the best one ever made. Like if you ask the makers, and yeah, you got to convince the audience of that, and you don't do it by putting your favorite, like, you got to trust someone else to have at least a say in it. Like, no, but it's, I would say, outside perspective is like worth as much as the movie itself. Because doing it yourself, you got to be lucky. And luck, I mean, I don't believe in luck at all. Like none. I'm super cynical about it, and I think the campaign, or like the, what do you call it, the actual launch of the movie is act zero, basically, because the audience need to, I mean, audiences are like jury members. If they've heard about it before, this is, yeah, I heard about it, it must be pretty good. If they've never heard about it before, it's just, I never heard about it, can't be that good. I mean, that's how we really think about it. It's that simple. So I just want to do anything to get out of that position of having people say, never heard about it. And they don't have to hear much. They just have to hear a little bit, but that, what they hear needs to sting, needs to surprise, needs to entertain. And that doesn't matter if it's a funeral movie. I mean, every movie can entertain. That's what we're doing it. We can watch so many other things. I mean, there's so many other things to do. So I think, like, even like the darkest, saddest, brutal art house introvert movie can be can be brought out like, in a very entertaining act zero. And I'm not saying a car chase or anything. It's not. You can't lie. There's no lying, but there's some truth to it and some cutting of like finding the insight. And last one, title. People are, excuse me, super bad at making titles. I mean, the titles out there are terrible. We find the title to be the head of the snake, actually. It has to be easy to say, easy to remember, easy to hear, and it can be quite complicated. It's not about a simplicity thing. It's just clarity. I mean, and the title comes before the poster, because if the title is not, you got to connect everything to that title. The title has to say or like invoke a feeling that, okay, that's a cool thing to see.
What's a good example of a good title and a good example of a bad title?
That's a
Sorry,
terrible
putting you on the
question.
spot, but what do you avoid in a title if you're having to think about it at that stage to campaign?
I would. I can't name a specific bad title, which is, I mean, that's a reason in itself.
Right. But what would you steer people against in a title? What are there any key words or key?
No,
you know,
there's no rules. I mean, Nymphomaniac. I mean, when you think about that, who wants to go see Nymphomaniac for 4.5 hours? I mean, by this guy is like, nah. But you want to try to make that entertaining and right. So how do you translate Nymphomaniac into something that is not a porn, not a? I mean, and that's what we did. Posters that said sex without showing sex, because there was nothing on it. I mean, kids. I mean, those were mainstream posters. I mean, kids were asking who's hurting them. You know, it just looked like somebody getting stubbed their toe in the door. But it's, and that's why the insight for that movie was, if you ever had a little bit of sex, this movie might be for you. So you had to have had sex to actually understand the thing. Amour is a good title. It's a terrible title for any other movie than Amour. But I mean, literally, it dies. That title dies with any other movie than that title, because you can see that's the idea of Amour. You can see they're both loving each other, and the one person is not there, and you can see it. You don't have to understand the movie. You say, okay, that's a difficult situation right there. That's like a lifetime of love, and there's none, and there's all the love in the world. So that's a good title. I mean, you got to be bold with your title. You got to stand up for it, and you got to not do the title if it's wrong.
So Sue, for you, you know.
Sorry.
No. I'm just picking up on that. Actually, you know, at the early, you're taking your film to a festival, you're launching it there, so you're at the early stages. You've thought about the title and everything like that. You know, how important is what was the experience like for you, and how important was the early stages of the launch of the film, do you think, in actually propelling you to a selection stage, perhaps? You know.
Yeah, I think it's what you asked earlier. So when does campaigning actually start? And I think of course it's different for every film, and it's definitely different for documentaries and fiction, because of course documentaries, I mean, there's for a very long period of time you don't actually know what you're getting and what this film is actually going to be. So, you know, and I think if you're writing a script, then obviously you have already a target audience. And when I choose my topics for documentaries, I kind of have an idea of what the target audience could be, but that can also change again, you know, in the editing room and once I know what this film is. But so yeah, it definitely starts, for me, it starts very early, and titles are, a title for me is the wrapping around the package, but it comes really early because I really want to, I don't know how to, I need to brand this baby very early because I need to really like to go back to it. And it sounds a bit, maybe it sounds a bit weird, but it's really, I think, even before I start writing, when I write my first script, when I try to get the first bit of money, I usually have already the title of what the film is going to be called. And yeah, it's
Bravo.
It's essential. And I think I really like my titles as well. Well, the last one's called Girl Gang. That's cool, no?
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, so from then on, the campaigning starts, I would say. And then
And what was
posters are essential, what you talked about earlier. So I usually get different versions made. I do test them with a lot of people I don't know, and, across the world. So not just, like in the German-speaking parts or Europe.
And how did you get your film to try and stand out at festival launch as well? Did you have any publicity support, any marketing support? Was it just, how did you try and convert or, gain momentum, I suppose, at launch? Did you have any help?
Yes, I had publicists with every film. It really depends on the festival and what you can do there. So, Saudi was at Sundance, so that was something completely different. There was, the Swiss embassy was involved. And so we had, a big launch there. Then the last one started at CPH, CPH Docs. So yeah, it is very different to which film.
And the campaign is that's the beginning of a campaign, really, isn't it?
Yeah,
I suppose.
Yeah, but I wouldn't really call it campaign. I mean, it's a launch.
Right.
Yeah.
So actually, that's interesting. So what's the difference between a launch and a campaign then? Because to me, they seem similar. It's all part of one continuum, but are there different?
I think it's different. You can launch a film during a festival when you have your world premiere, and then you can start your international campaign if the film is sold in many countries, depending of the kind of film. It depends on the kind of film, and then you can consider to start an award campaign.
Right.
Yes. So it's let's say the award campaign is maybe the second step.
Okay.
First step is your festival launch, premiere, gain attention, press, positioning your film, and then.
And can I just ask, this out of personal interest as well, what role does the trade press play within this campaign as well?
Very important role. It will help position your film. What you need when you have a film in a festival like Cannes, for instance, is you need your film to be reviewed by the trades, especially if your film is unsold, because it will help to sell your film and position your film. And we are starting also launching some material in exclusive before your premiere to try to organize a positioning piece also for with the trades, and then trying to get your film reviewed.
Is it easy to get a film reviewed?
No. No, especially like in Cannes. It depends very much in which festival you are, in which section you are. Yeah.
Can I just jump on a little bit, actually, and ask about the European Film Awards specifically, and perhaps compare it to campaigning, I don't know, for the Oscars or the BAFTAs, or, the Swiss Film Awards, or, the Italian film with David Donatello's or whatever. Is there any differences that you need to, or any different strategies or tactics that you need to consider? Maybe I could start with you, Claudia.
Sure. You have to consider that there are a lot of crossover. A lot of members are members of both academy or many academy, and of course you play at home with the European Film Awards, and the costs are for sure differently, and it depends if you have your local partner, as I said, or not, and the strategy is very different, the timing, and the rules are also different, and so yeah.
Did you campaign for other awards as well? Did you have a different strategy if you did?
No, because no. I'm just thinking, because all the other awards which I won, they usually came out of festivals,
right?
And so that's all jury based,
right?
And, yeah.
And I imagine are you thinking of specific awards at your stage? I suppose you're just thinking about getting the film famous, aren't you, really?
Yeah, but it's the same thing. I mean, we also think about festival, what do you call them? Nitpickers, or like juries that get, I mean, they're also a target audience, because they also see a gazillion amount of movies. So they have to be interested from the get-go. and but we always like really talk to the filmmakers about like win your home ground first.
Yeah.
You gotta make it. You can't. Some people are thinking about like, so when I get the Oscar, I said, no, you haven't premiered it at home yet. You gotta win your home territory, because, I mean, you trust the success so much more. I mean, momentum takes time, patience, and it's still the same decision. You gotta be interesting from the get-go, but you can't think that jury members or festival people or anything are different from the man on the street. They know different stuff, but they're busy as hell, and they have so many things to choose from. So, I mean, we don't take anything for granted. Nothing. It doesn't matter how smart people are or how good the project is, and like, so it's all about trust. That's why I say outside perspective. You got to trust that outside perspective. If it feels right, and hear it again and again, and if it sounds right, it's like, okay, fuck, go do it. And we ask people to participate, but also get out of our way, because you can overlook something into absolute nothing just by looking there. And that's what I mean. If you're in the room all the time, everything changes. And
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not looking at them editing the movie. You know, it's two different skills, but it's still like a very close collaboration.
But I suppose, it's bringing an outsider perspective is I suppose the useful thing sometimes to bring in. Just on that note, we've got about a few more minutes, because I know Claudia's got to run off to a premiere in a few minutes. But I just thought before we wrapped up, we could maybe open up to the floor if there's any questions about campaigning for award films from anybody. Matthias?
I was just wondering, because you just spoke a bit about if you can cater for an award or aim for an award that you'd like to win. You just said like win your home territory. I've been wondering, I mean, I work for the European Film Academy. We're working on making sure that within Europe people understand that campaigning, the good sides of campaigning can make a difference. And I was wondering, based on your experience, what each of you think that in Europe we could do better compared to experiences you've maybe seen somewhere else or you've experienced somewhere else. Like, what can we do better in Europe? What would be your recommendation?
Compared to the Oscars, or...
For example.
Yeah. Claudia, can I maybe start with you?
I think that the organizing of screenings was a big step and a big help. And this is in a way is a very helpful and simple a tool. I think that shifting the time in January is very good, because it will help European film with the award to have visibility also on other awards. I think
this refers to the fact that
European Film Award in 2026, right, will be in January. So I think this is very helpful for other awards, for the strategy of other awards. And I think also producer and filmmaker needs to see that now other awards, like for example the Oscars, the international component is very big, and we have seen in the last Oscars. And so the European Film Awards can also help to promote the Oscar campaigns or the other awards campaign for European film. Yeah. So it's a good tool.
As the BAFTAs do, perhaps.
Exactly.
It's an important part of the
very
journey,
important part, I think. Yeah.
Any other questions from anybody? Nope. Well, if that's the case, I think I'm aware of time here, but I think we've had a great conversation, just recognise the importance of how to campaign, when to campaign, what's important, what's not important within the campaign. So it just remains for me to say thank you so much to our great panellists for taking the time. And also, we're just going to close with a little video just to give you a taster of the European Film Awards in Lucerne. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.